Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We've got a new sunspot rising. It's a bit active. We'll show you the classification of that shortly. We've got activity on Earth caused by coronal hole high-speed streams, huge filaments. There's the coronal hole in the northern hemisphere. You can see a huge plasma filament up here. And also coronal mass ejections. Are they headed toward Earth? Well, I, your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, and the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, will let you know all about it on the Daily Space Weather. Let's take a look at sunspots. Here's your SDO intensity gram. Sunspots have been mostly stable here. We do have a little bit of growth behind this northern sunspot group. You can see a little bit of increase. That might be named as a new sunspot group here. We do have a small increase in the radio flux also. We'll get to that. Here's the colorized magnetogram. And I'm not sure if that'll get that. I think that's going to get named as a new group. So we'll have two new sunspot groups here. And let's take a look at volcanoes real quick. Suwanosejima is erupting in an explosive fashion, producing a 9,000-foot ash plume. 5,000-foot ash plume from Suwanosejima. Semisa here. Aviation color code lowered to yellow, so a downtick there at Semisa. Venting of steam and gas continues from the northern crater of Mount Cerberus. Trident. So there's an earthquake swarm beneath the Trident volcano on the Alaskan Peninsula. Aviation code changed there from green to yellow, so an uptick at the Trident volcano. And it looks like the quakes are getting more shallow, an indication that the magma is coming to the surface. Fuego in Guatemala exploding, flight level 150 from Fuego, 15,000-foot ash plume. Headed down to Colombia to Nevado del Ruiz exploding. 20,000-foot ash plume. 20,000-foot ash plume from Sangay, also flight level 200 as Sangay explodes. Revenador also exploding, flight level 150 from Revenador. And last but not least, Sabancaya exploding, flight level 240 over Peru from Sabancaya. Please do not pole vault the caldera. We also have a seismic uptick happening here, so an increase in earthquakes here, and the largest quake of the past 24 was actually this 5.7 at the Reykjanes Ridge. So there's a huge swarm of earthquakes happening there, and, well, they've been getting bigger. So that's kind of interesting, I would say. That 5.7 came in at 15:32 Universal Time yesterday. So here's the list. So a ton of quakes there around the Pacific Rim, including Western South America, Oceania, Japan, and Alaska. Myanmar had a 5.6. I'm sorry, the largest quake of the past 24 was a 5.8. It was this one here at the Loyalty Islands there, north of New Zealand. That one happened at 22:59 Universal Time. There was a 5.1 at Alaska. That was at 23:08 Universal Time. So a little bit of an uptick there in earthquakes. Little earthquake swarm happening there in the Caribbean as well. Papua New Guinea had a 5.0. So definitely an earthquake uptick. Remember, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock. There's an earthquake at Chile at a 5.3. So sometimes you get a little bit of warning about a large quake. And I would remind you of all the quakes happening here at the Reykjanes Ridge. So actually less to report there than yesterday, but a little larger magnitude. And those are all on the European plate side of the plate boundary. So getting back to space, again, we have a new sunspot having risen right here. Great, spectacular, picturesque view of that new sunspot. We'll let you know the classifications here in a bit. Radio flux has come up to 137 solar flux units. And if you're wondering what a solar flux unit is, it's 1,000 joules, 10,000 joules of radio flux density. 10,000 joules of radio flux density is what a solar flux unit is. And the radio flux is proportional to sunspot number, as you can see in the black line versus the red line. You can see how proportional those are in that 1-year graph. Starting out October, we're going to have significant geomagnetic storm and unrest conditions. NOAA expecting a KP6 for a significant portion of the day tomorrow on October 1st. So starting out October in an exciting fashion here with a possible coronal mass ejection impact, although I'm not so sure about that. Certainly a coronal hole high-speed stream expected. We'll see what happens. We are in a state of geomagnetic unrest at the moment. So here's the earthly geospace out to about 12 Earth diameters, the magnetohydrodynamic pressure over the past 4 hours. Some high-speed plasma showing up from that coronal hole high-speed stream. Fast and steady causes geomagnetic unrest. So here are the geospace ground magnetic perturbations. This will show you the most likely places for pipeline, power line, railway, induction, and, of course, the aurora. So quite a lot of magnetic shifts happening there. That's geospace delta B, changes to Earth's B field. The B field is the field that goes through the magnet, this magnet being planet Earth. So kicking off early here with some geomagnetic unrest. Here early in the day on September 30th, at least 6 hours of KP4. Planetary K-index, the measurement of global geomagnetism, and let's go to the real-time solar wind. So what's causing it is this ongoing top line here. You see this top line, that's the BTBZ. The BT is the total field strength. That is the white line. The red line is the vertical component known as the BZ. We have this strong negative signal here. As long as we see that strong negative signal, all things remaining the same, will remain in a geomagnetic unrest or move up to even a geomagnetic storm state. Solar wind here still remaining a little bit heightened. We can expect this to get quite a bit higher here. And we can expect another pulse too. So expect a density increase. That's going to probably cause a shift in the magnetic fields. We'll see what happens. We could indeed have some significantly stormy conditions here. So current conditions are 523 kilometers per second. That's the solar wind speed. Solar wind density about 8.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Next, getting into magnetic data. Here are the GOES 16 and GOES 17 magnetometers from their geosynchronous near equatorial orbits. You can see they had to make some maneuvers there. That's the arc jet moments. Their thrusters do create plasma, which can affect the magnetometers. Next, we'll look at the heliospheric current sheet. Again, we may see a South Pole current sheet coming through here soon. Don't be surprised to see one pop through. At the moment, Earth just in a North Pole current sheet. That's the current state of affairs. As far as the polarity of the plasma, Earth in a North Pole current sheet. Here's our line of sight field plot. The Sun's B field shown here in blue. You can see those well-defined coronal holes, and let's move to the coronal hole portion. There is your coronal hole view, your line of sight coronal hole plot. Those are all North Pole oriented coronal holes, and I would also note the North Solar Polar Field there still located at the North Heliographic Pole. We've been covering it. It's taken its time to complete its migration. So here's the last 24 hours from the SDO in 211 angstroms, the best wavelength to show coronal holes. And check that out. The North Solar Polar Field still remaining largely fixated at the North Pole. So the migration is happening, but a large portion of that field still at the north, indicating that we've got a long way to go for solar cycle 25. Next, moving to sunspots. Again, we've got a new sunspot group here rising for sure. And this group back here might get a name also. So if this gets a name, if this sunspot group gets a name, that'll be 3,112. This new sunspot will definitely get a name. And if that other one gets a name, it'll be 3,113. Likelihood of solar flares is much higher than this flare probability indicating at the moment, because we're seeing quite a lot of activity from this new group having just risen in the northeast. So let's take a look at it from 1700 angstroms wavelength. You see that new series of umbrae growing right there. We'll also show SDO continuum and SDO magnetogram. So that's the last 24 hours. There it is in polarized light, which is where the magnetogram is derived. And here is the SDO continuum. Pretty sure that's going to be named a sunspot group. So that should be 3,112. This new sunspot rising in the northeast should be 3,113. Also, as this group sets, it could produce some flares. And let's move to flares next. At the moment, no relativistic particles there showing up. There was an Mclass flare earlier this morning, right at 4 o'clock universal time. And let's take a look at the flare view here, 94 angstroms. One of the best wavelengths to view flares. Give that a minute to queue up. In the meantime, I'll pause for station identification. And thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Thanks for leaving a comment, TinMan1057. Good morning to you as well. So here's 94 angstroms. And it looks like that Mclass flare. Let's bring this to 4 o'clock. I think that Mclass flare came out of this group in the north, actually. Looks like that's the Mclass flare right there. So that was a little unexpected. That data is from yesterday plus today. So let's zoom in a little bit on that. As we show the most detailed imagery of the sun and the most comprehensive space weather in the world. Continuing on, here's a star chart. We're always interested in what's going on overhead, and we encourage you to look up. Mercury's just rising here over the horizon in the Lehigh Valley. Mars high in the sky as Jupiter sets. Also Cygnus slowly setting in the northwest. The yellow line is the ecliptic. The blue line is the galactic plane. Here's a solar system forecast. This is where things are now. Keep in mind the diagram is not to scale. Here's your 1 week forecast. As we've got a crescent waxing moon. There's where things will be in 1 week. The 7th day of October. Next, some coronagraph imagery. And if you're wondering if that CME is directed toward the Earth, we'll tell you here in a moment, and we'll tell you why. First, let's see if we have any more images from today, and indeed only one frame from today. So let's go to Stereo A, located at Lagrange 5, and the Soho Lasco C3 at Lagrange 1. Now, is that CME directed toward the Earth? Well, the answer is certainly not. You can see it's on the opposite side of the sun there. Earth would be over in this direction from the perspective of Stereo A, off to the right of frame. So that is definitely not an earthly directed CME. Let's let that play through one more time. We've got some 24-hour imagery here from the Soho Lasco C3, C2, and the SDO 304 angstroms. Great imagery there. We're zoomed out even more here. Spectacular light show of a non-Earth directed coronal mass ejection. Let's blast through some more. Huge number of filaments here on the earthly facing portion of the solar disk. You can see all these black absorption features. Those are huge filaments. This one here is looking like it's getting unstable. It grew, and now it's getting unstable here. So don't be surprised to see some Earth-directed, or at least earthly vicinity type coronal mass ejections here. Those are a lot of filaments. I would say the likelihood of coronal mass ejections nearly at 100%. Here's the last couple of hours. You can see that filament there. Last couple of hours there from the GOES 16 SUVI. It's what we usually stream to the Twitch channel. Make sure you install the Twitch app to see when we go live. We go live most at twitch.tv/smashomash. It's a very well-made platform, thanks to our new followers over there on Twitch. And here's the last 24 in composite. That's SDO 304 angstroms plus SDO 193 angstroms. Just spectacular imagery. And let's move to the bonus features segment. So we do have some satellite charging hazards here at the moment, some surface charging happening there over places like Mexico, about to move into the Central Pacific Ocean. Those surface charging hazards there caused by electrons building up on the surfaces of satellites. GOES Electron Flux remains cratered here. So we can expect this to remain kind of low. NOAA forecasting a huge uptick, but I would say that's going to remain low. Certainly for this next green box here, that's the forecast. I would tend to agree with that one. Not so sure it's going to rise that quickly, though, as we'll have an extended coronal hole high-speed stream. We'll have to see what happens. There's the one-year chart of the electron flux. To put that in perspective, that's the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron fluence. Next, we'll show the F layer of the ionosphere. One slice of the bridge between Earth and space. This is the vibrational frequency there. And we're seeing quite significant anomalies once again over places like northern South America. So some low frequency anomalies happening, as well as some rapid swings. We'll show you the anomalygram to clear it up. So here's the anomalygram showing anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. You can see some low frequency anomalies happening there over the central Atlantic. Some high frequency anomalies happening over the southern portion of Africa and South America, the South Pacific. Low frequency in red, high frequency in blue. Some low frequency anomalies happening there around Antarctica as well. So quite a lot of anomalies here at the moment. That's the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Lots and lots of anomalies. So there's the latest image. That's September 30th, 10:15 Universal Time. And let's move on to the electron flux, the total electron content, rather. It's going to show the electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset, showing the most likely places for GPS errors. That's the free electrons in the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics model. It's showing you the free electrons in the inner layers of the outer Van Allen belt, the outer plasmasphere, the inner Van Allen belt, the inner plasmasphere, and the ionosphere. Don't be surprised to see some major anomalies here. At the moment, things are looking fairly orderly. Next, the latest intensitygram and latest SDO magnetogram, especially because of this new sunspot. So let's check it out. At the moment, it looks like it's only alpha class. I think there are probably some additional umbrae behind it, though, because it looks quite active. So we'll have to see what happens there, but looks like we'll have 2 more named sunspot groups today. This group here, certainly beta-gamma class. There are the fields of that. That'll probably be Sunspot 3112. We've got a couple more series of images for you here. Here is the SDO Iron Star, 335 plus 193 plus 94 angstroms. That's the data from yesterday and today. We're going to zoom in a little bit on that. Good stuff. And how about the 24-hour imagery from SDO 171 angstroms? Because it's time to move to meteorology. It's been an exciting time for meteorology in the past few days, obviously. Some devastating flooding coming to Florida, storm surge damage to places like Fort Myers, of course. And before we get into meteorology, please take a moment to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Tell your friends and foes about us, press share, press subscribe, etc. if you're new to the channel. Congratulations on realizing the Smash News Network least busted name in news exists. Thanks to our new subscribers over on YouTube. Don't forget to check our playlist. There are some videos there besides space weather and meteorology segments. So check those out. Terms defined, the Diamond Anvil Too Hard to Smash, music videos, cosmology segments, over 260 of those. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Which brings me to an important point about the pathetic censorship of big tech. So, markets do not forgive, markets do not forget. The evilest corporations in known history are big tech organizations. And check out how the markets have been treating them. There's the one-year chart for Alphabet. There's the one-year chart for Twitter. And there's the one-year chart for Meta. The three largest purveyors of censorship in the world, possibly the evilest corporations in all of human history. And what's so evil about them? Well, if you consider the internet the most important invention of all time, because it is, well, I mean, look, the internet is like an extension of the printing press. It allows information to get to everybody. People in fourth world countries that have no plumbing and have dirt floors and have no electricity can buy a smartphone for $50 and be on the internet and have access to most of the information that mankind has ever known. Meanwhile, certain organizations are trying to ruin the internet itself. So that's why I'm so critical, because it is pure evil to attempt to put out disinformation, censor facts, and so on. And that's why today's featured product is Google Defined. So if you visit our merch shop, you'll find the items here in order of best selling. And today's featured product is Google Defined, because if you're using it as a verb, you should use it correctly. Because as a verb, Googling something means to obtain biased search results by using the Google Junkware search engine to search for something on the internet. If you want legit results, I suggest you don't Google it, because it's 100% clear that the results are biased. And it depends on what you're searching for, of course. Some of the results are going to be objective. Many of the results are going to be biased. Because why? You can pay Google to have your organization show up higher in the results, which creates a totally unnatural bidding war, and it creates a totally ridiculous algorithm, and it obfuscates facts. It creates disinformation when the highest bidder feels like paying for disinformation, and so on. I stopped using Google as a search engine in about 2012. And so part of the effort to make Earth not suck again is to expose facts about pathetic big tech organizations and their pathetic attempts to censor the internet. All they're doing is destroying themselves, misleading investors, and basically behaving like fascist criminals. So that's the Google Defined product. And again, part of the reason is to make Earth not suck again. So that's another product, one of our top sellers. Make Earth not suck again by using an objective search engine to obtain your search results, or at least use multiple search engines, because you're obtaining biased information. by using the Google Junkware engine. If you want to support the channel, become a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/smashteam. In 2018, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped from a maximum security social media stockade to the internet underground where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find the goddamn content, maybe you can hire the Smash Team. So hit us up at smashomash.com/smashteam if you want to be an executive producer of the channel. Join at the gold or silver Smash Team level member. The best value is the gold annual paid-up subscription. It includes complimentary merch, and let's move on. Thanks to our Smash Team members, links to the Smash Team pages below the video, as well as on the homepage at smashomash.com. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Censorship is dead, just like centralization. It's not needed anymore. So plan accordingly. Plan accordingly. And if you're working for one of these big tech organizations, try not to mislead investors. Misleading investors is still a crime, even in pathetic banana republics. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Congratulations once again on realizing the channel exists. And if you'd like to improve your health, consider becoming a member of SureMed. SureMed, otherwise known as the American Better Health Organization, has all kinds of features that will allow you to improve your health, such as getting discounts on things like pharmacy items, MRIs and CT scans, labs, dental services, vision services. It also includes doctors by phone, counselors by phone, even virtual veterinarians by Vetster. So check it out. The link below the video here as well to SureMed, as well as on the homepage. It's not insurance. It's an association membership in a nonprofit organization focused on improving your health. One way to improve your health is also to understand the weather. So let's get into it. This is our meteorology segment, as South Carolina is now getting plastered, as well as Georgia. So this is the current state of affairs as far as wind goes. And those are the surface winds of the southeastern coast of the U.S. We'll show more forecasts about that here momentarily. First, the global view. So this is the wind environment, another powerful low here in the Bering Sea. Likely not a very good day to be crabbing. Here are the jet streams of the east. And a powerful upper level low here over Western Australia there. You can see a clockwise rotation happening there. A powerful upper level low. Here is the jet stream scenario for the Americas. Huge bends in the jet stream happening here over the Atlantic Ocean. Here are the surface winds of the Western world. Surface winds of the central world. Powerful low here centered over Iceland, as you can see there with that counterclockwise rotation. And here are the jet streams. An anticyclone here over the North Atlantic. Powerful low here over southern Africa as well. Check it out. That upper level clockwise rotation there indicating an upper level low. Next, looking at the clouds and fog over the western world. That's the 3.9 nanometer radiation, part of the infrared spectrum, and some rapid cloud nucleation happening there in northern South America. And let's move on to the weather.gov map. As we zoom into the U.S., lots of hurricane, tropical storm, etc. type warnings here around the southeast. Please heed the warnings. And yeah, some frost advisories and hard freeze warnings happening there in the northeast. So let's cover that first. These forecasts were not available when we did show prep, so we'll create them for you right now. This is the 72-hour GFS temperature anomaly forecast. Temperature anomalies are shown here in degrees Celsius. Some rapid swings happening there in the northwest. From hot to cold and so on. Such is the way of October. Next, we're going to show the pressure and precipitation forecast here. based on the same model. This is, once again, the GFS model for pressure and precipitation for the next 72 hours. And you can see that hurricane remnant is going to move almost due north there and then make a sudden turn to the east as the jet stream interferes with its path to the north. And last but not least, we're going to show the total accumulated precipitation forecast, since it is looking pretty rainy for the eastern portion of the country here. Once again, it's the GFS model for the total accumulated precipitation in inches here for the, well, it looks like you're getting about 4 inches of rain there over large portions of South Carolina and most of North Carolina. Also some heavy rains making their way to Pennsylvania here, especially the central part of the state. Looking like it may receive as much as 4 inches of rain there, so the hurricane's still wreaking havoc here, as it will continue to drop a lot of moisture. Here's the current satellite imagery from windy.com. Check out their mobile app. It's fantastic. It's free. Windy.com. Install it on your mobile device and keep on top of weather. All kinds of layers that you may not otherwise have access to, like the pressure map. So here's the European forecast. It'll show you how that low is going to travel. And it is going to break up quite a lot there in the coming days, as there's a lot less convection available. It looks like the European forecast is putting that much farther to the east. And let's check the rain accumulation. So yeah, the European forecast is placing that much farther to the east. That's your rain accumulation based on the European model for the next 3 days. And let's continue on to take a look at lightning, which, by the way, does strike twice. Don't assume that lightning's not going to strike a location because lightning struck there. That could get you killed. Lightning certainly strikes twice in the same spot. Take a look at a real-time lightning map here from lightningmaps.org. Do we have any active cells in the U.S.? It doesn't look like it. But some recent strikes happened there in Utah. So, once again, oh, there we go. Some active cells happening there. Indeed, in Utah. So some lightning happening there as we stream the video. Convince the natives that you're Thor or Odin by forecasting thunder. You can do it on lightningmaps.org. South of Salt Lake City there, some active cells happening. And continuing on, here's the current state of affairs as far as the Doppler radar, and heavy rains there showing up in South Carolina and most of North Carolina. Some very, very thick bands there. That dark green indicates heavy rains. Let's zoom out here to show all 50 states. Looks like the precipitation is waning there in southern Alaska. We're going to focus on the lower 48. Here's your shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog. And here is your water vapor map. Hopefully that clarifies things. Here's your recap. The U.S. Doppler radar showing vertical motion of water droplets in the air column. The shortwave radiation satellite at 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation showing clouds and fog. And the water vapor map showing all of the water vapor from the satellite's perspective. And once again, thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And may that solar wind be at your back.